Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Movie Mayhem. Let me tell you, it has been a while. It's probably been about a month since we uploaded last, but I just want to say we're back. We're going to produce episodes this whole month of November. We might take December off because we might have a special holiday special. That's an interesting thing to say. We might have a holiday special waiting for you guys in December, so we might take that month off and recap later, or I should say early next year. So on today's episode, we are joined by my co-host and friend Chase Morgan Hewlett. Chase, how are you doing this evening?
I am well, and happy Halloween, Donnie.
Happy Halloween to you too as well, Chase. And in honor of Halloween, I hear that you have some movies that might be a top 5 list of Halloween films. Is that correct, Chase?
That is correct, and I hope you have the list as well, and I'm not alone in all this.
You are not alone. For some reason, I thought it would be harder to come up with this list, but after doing some Google research, I found out that The Batman is a horror film because it came out in October. Don't ask me why, but The Batman,
Okay.
not with Christian Bale, obviously, The Batman with Pattinson. Oh my goodness, Robert Pattinson is a horror film apparently, which that is an honorable mention. It is not on my list, audience, so don't worry about that.
Chase, that's a horror movie?
Believe it or not, it is. I looked it up. It's actually in the top of IMDb's horror films. Top 100. It's in the top 100. I have no idea why. Probably because it came out in October. Maybe the Batman's a little bit scarier. I don't know, but that is possible.
I mean, he is scary in that film. Out of every Batman movie I've watched, he is the most terrifying. And anyway, this is not about Batman, but I do love the Batman.
It is all about Batman. Every day is about Batman. I think of the Roman Empire every day. Every day.
I do too.
It's a guy thing, as if you follow social media trends. So anyway, Chase, would you like to kick us off with your number 5?
Okay, so my number now I have to separate it because you have slasher and then you have horror, and that is a difference because slasher is that unrealistic violence that you have in movies where it separates itself from like a thriller, and then you have your regular horror movies that isn't really about the gore. It's more about just the terror in it and the scare factor. Before my number 5, I have to pick a more subtle Halloween movie. Not a horror, but a Halloween movie. And that is Hubie Halloween. It is a Netflix film that came out in 2020. It's an Adam Sandler comedy. And Adam Sandler, he has his really funny movies, and then he has movies that are like, okay, he didn't need to make that. And I was worried this was going to be one of those, but I ended up really loving this movie. And it's pretty much a film about Adam Sandler's character is kind of a special guy. He's not all there, and everyone kind of picks on him, and he kind of always cries wolf. And like during Halloween, he's always like really suspicious about everything. But this time something's really happening and no one's listening to him. So it's kind of that funny tale of Never Cry Wolf. But it's really funny. It's a fun Halloween movie. It's on Netflix. Want to go check it out. Get some good Adam Sandler laughs, kind of like you saw in Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. Then this is a pretty good film. And you get the cast that you've seen in SNL and in like Grown Ups. You have Steve Buscemi. You have Kevin James. You have all the friends of Adam Sandler coming back for this film, which one of the things I like about his movies is he does that. And it's he brings his friends together and they just make a movie, it seems like. And he's made it this far to where he can afford to have a big budget, but didn't involve his friends. So Hubie Halloween is my number 5.
No, Chase, I don't think I've ever seen that film. So
go watch it before Halloween's over.
That is a must watch, apparently. So I will get right on that tonight. Number 5 on my list. So I'm going to do a little bit of a throwback to 1999. I'm going to go with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp. Now, I know that has some mixed reviews, but watching that as a kid, I did say terrorizing. Because when you talk about the heads will roll, the heads have rolled in that film. So that is borderline slasher, you can say. But it is definitely one of those creepy Halloween films in which I greatly enjoyed. Chase, I don't know if you ever saw the Johnny Depp version of Sleepy Hollow.
I did, and then I read the book, and then the book's pretty good, but the movie's pretty great. It's Tim Burton and Johnny Depp teaming up again. And actually, my fiance and I just watched that this Halloween season because she never seen it. and she's a big fan of both Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. So I was like, well, you have to watch this film. It's a pretty good film. I think what's funny about it is the heads rolling, like you said. Like when he cuts the head off, it's like you see it, and it's gory but not gory at the same time. Like it's presentable. Like you can show. I'm not saying kids should watch this film, but you can, and it's not gory, but yet it is gory. So I thought that was a pretty cool aspect of that film.
They do a very good job. And again, I wouldn't recommend it for kids, even though I watched it as a kid. Because I'm recalling the opening scene as Chase like, it's made for kids. It's not made for kids, but kids can watch it as the family is beheaded, which they do a great job of killing off camera, by the way, because that was the 90s, early 2000s. They did a good job of killing off camera and like making you really feel the deaths. So in this film, the opening scene, of course, of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the headless horseman comes riding through town, goes into this house, kills the mother, kills the father, and the kid's hiding in the floorboards. And the next thing you know, like the kid makes like that noise, or like he senses that, and then he reaches down through the floorboards, pulls him up, and the next thing you know, like the head goes in the bag. And that's a subtle, very subtle, minute, very point of the headless horseman. Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot more different vile scenes that we see in there. That again, I never read the novel, so I really don't have that perspective. But I did watch. I think there was like some Legends of Sleepy Hollow, specifically a cartoon, which I absolutely hate the cartoon by any means. But I never thought it was done well until then. And then they brought a TV show later on, which I kind of got into, but then I didn't. That kind of ran its course on Fox. I don't know if you remember even that one, but there was a little TV series.
Sleepy Hollow, that is a good one. I wonder if they're ever going to remake it, because it's been a while. I like that a throwback is 1999, and we both were alive. So that made me feel old. Thank you for that.
Some were alive longer than others.
I remember 1999, not much, but I remember Y2K. So I'm like, ugh.
And the world didn't end then. So
yeah.
Perfect. Chase, do you have number 4 on your list?
I do. I was writing them in order, so because my notes were kind of spread out everywhere, and I was trying to put them in order there. So my number 4 is, I have argued with people that it's not a Halloween movie, but I think it is, because it starts out as a Halloween movie, but then it slowly goes into a Christmas film, and that is Nightmare Before Christmas. And we're on a Tim Burton streak right now, but yep, Nightmare Before Christmas. You know what's funny is I used to not like this film as a kid, because Halloween is not a holiday I really care to celebrate. I always did because my sister did, and now I'm marrying a woman that Halloween is everything, and so I kind of have to still celebrate it. But this is a movie that I didn't like before because my sister watched it all the time, and I just kind of got overwhelmed from it. And it was kind of weird. It was that weird animation. It just was an odd film, and I didn't care for it. But as I've watched it more with my fiance, we've watched it. We've been together for over 3 years, and we watched it numerous times. Probably 3 or 4 or 5 times. I don't know how many times. I've grown to like it more, and the songs and the soundtrack. And so I would consider it a Halloween movie, because even though you go into that Christmas spirit, it is about Halloween characters trying something new. And it is just a family. Now, this one is for kids. Kids can watch this one, but it's a Tim Burton twist. It's very different. And that's kind of what I like about Tim Burton in general, is his films are different. They definitely stand out. If you enjoy him or not, there's movies I like of his and the movies I don't like of his, but overall, he's different. He has his own style, and I like that. And so number 4, Nightmare Before Christmas. And I'm going to call you out right now because you haven't seen it. You have thoughts on that?
The girlfriend is big into A Nightmare Before Christmas, and I've never seen it, never got the gist of it. And quite frankly, like Tim Burton, we talked about The Legend of Sleepy Hollow with Tim Burton. I actually love, and this is, again, I don't know if it's because I'm biased towards animation or like a specific style, because Tim Burton, even at Alice in Wonderland, I appreciate what he did with Johnny Depp as well when it comes to his live action stuff. When it comes to like Alice, let's say Alice in Wonderland, the cartoon, scares the crap out of me. I think part of the thing is it's a weird style of animation, and growing up seeing it on TV, I think I was just too like kind of freaked out and weirded by it that I never tried it again. It's either one of those things you're really captivated by or you're kind of like afraid of. And I'll use the word afraid because there's just, to me, it's just a weird style. But again, I've heard it has a good story, so I should really give it a try.
It has good music, actually. And when I first watched it was when I was a kid and it was on VHS. And now you can watch it on Disney Plus, and it, you know, the resolution's better and you can see more clearly and all that. So I'd give it a try. It's really good. The girlfriend would love it if you watched it. So just sit on the couch and say, "Honey, I'm gonna pick a movie," and she's like, "Okay," and you pick that one. That wins a woman's heart. Trust me on that one.
I'm sure it does.
Okay.
So I'm going to do another throwback. This is a film not made for kids, and it's not made by Tim Burton, so I'm going to break the streak here. Chase, have you ever saw the VHS films?
Um, I think I might have. When did it
So,
come out?
oh my goodness, it's got to be 2000s, I would imagine, because some of the effects in there. Now, it's a cult classic. So the premise is a group of people, which again, this is VHS 1, VHS 2, but we're talking about VHS 1, the OG. So a group of people break into this house, and to find out the person living in the house is already dead, but they come across VHS tapes. And what happens is it takes you away from the film, and they pop in, each person finds a different tape and they pop it in. So then you go into a different story each time. And you got things like Slender Man that show up, you get alien invasions that show up in these tapes and stuff like that, and some weird stuff. And it's just really, to me, it's a cult classic. It's weird. It's a combination of horror / like kind of sci-fi stuff. And again, not made for kids, but it is a weird, it's interesting, it's captivating because you got so many stories within one. And it's just something that every time my buddy had like a sleepover when we were kids and stuff like that, and we had the whole group together, we would rewatch it because we'd be like, oh, terrified. And that's kind of one of those films.
Terrifying. It's VHS. That's kind of cool to bring that, you know, nostalgia back and bring it into kind of a horror aspect from it, because I grew up with VHS, as I'm sure you have as well, where we have the rewind and all that, and it's kind of cool to bring those type of sound effects and that idea into it, because it's not modern. I think what's the thing about horror movies, like I said before, is the unrealistic side of it and the old-fashioned side of things, where usually your bad guy is an old-fashioned being. They do things the old way, not how the world does it, which is what separates them. And then they have that not old fashioned, but they have that very unrealistic violence, which kind of makes it into a slasher. But no, I'm not going to say I'm going to watch it, but I've seen the poster and all that. So maybe my fiance will make me watch it.
And it's a very, so one other thing I guess I can categorize it in, it's one of those days where what was the now the OG is what I'm going to mention, the Blair Witch Project, but what was the one where like they get all different perspectives and made like that a horror series? I forget what it was. It's always with the kid. Oh gosh, what was it? They go through like all the different video cameras. It's always like from a camera perspective.
Oh, like
paranormal activities. There we go. So
that's an OG.
Yeah. So thank you. Paranormal Activities. So it's very much so a combination of the Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activities, because it's that low budget type style where like every VHS is like kind of like a homemade video. So like you're always seeing it from the video camera perspective, and that was always cool. So I just wanted to mention that in case anybody was interested in hearing more. Chase, number 3.
Number 3. So now this is a callback. Before we were born. That's the true callback. It is Psycho. Hitchcock's Psycho. I do love Hitchcock films. And I could sit and take this whole podcast up on why I love this film. But we have another podcast for that. But no, Psycho's really good. It has a lot of original ideas. It was the first time you saw a toilet flushed on screen, and people thought that was just disgusting to see on screen. And I was like, well, there's nothing in it, but they just thought that was horrifying. But it is an original story. You know, Jamie Lee Curtis's mother is in it. And you have Norman Bates as one of the most popular horror figures in the genre. And I just like the idea of, him betraying his mother. It's just really creepy. This is where Bates Motel came from. And a lot of things kind of spread out. And they made sequels of it, which the sequels don't exist in my mind. But yeah, the original Psycho, Hitchcock, or really any Hitchcock film. I just like all of his films. You have The Birds, you have Vertigo. But some of those are more thriller. But this one is a horror to me because it is more psychological, and it's not a slasher, it's psychological. He dresses up as his mother and kills, and so that's kind of terrifying. And the whole setup is terrifying with the motel and the house up there and whatnot. So, yep. Have you seen Psycho?
I have seen Psycho. Psycho,
Okay.
again, didn't make my list, but Psycho, phenomenal film. I do appreciate Hitchcock and all of his films. But I'm surprised you didn't mention The Crows. I'll be quite honest with you. Surprised.
Oh, the birds.
The Birds, my bad. I did say The Crows. The Birds. They are crows. I mean, it's the same thing.
The
You could have
ostrich.
named it whatever. The ostrich. His head was facing this way, but the body was just like this. In case you didn't realize the Kevin Hart skit, yes. So, Chase, this is where the serious hits reality. Okay, I'm about to mention my number 3 film, and this film, there's not really much to say after I name the title because I could have picked literally anyone in this animated series. I picked Scooby-Doo Zombie Island.
My lady would love you right now.
So listen, okay. Genuinely, I do forget the plot of the Zombie Island film. Okay. But when I was looking over Halloween, you know how like there's just something nostalgic that hits you that you always watch as a kid. I remember that one because I have the VHS and I have that film and the cover. I was like, oh, this OG moment right here. I was like, so I needed to put it on the list because it's a film, and just like any Scooby-Doo, I think that Scooby-Doo is a great one to rewatch, first of all, because the animated show was just amazing. But personally, this was one where the cover, I used to sit down, I used to watch this all the time as a kid. Like I used to just build my Legos and watch Scooby-Doo Zombie Island, and that was phenomenal. And I would still rewatch it to this day.
And you would still build Legos today.
I have. I am not ashamed. I have one sitting in the room. You know, I got one. So my mom, backstory here real quick. I know nobody cares, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Backstory real quick. For Christmas, my mom actually got me, along with the socks and underwear, she got me a Lego set. And I still haven't built it yet. So that is on the goal for this Christmas.
What Lego? So.
It's one of the new Star Wars. I forget. So again, being a massive Star Wars fan like I should be, it's one of the new trilogy Disney ones, and it's kind of like that sand speeder that they used in the final one. That the Rise of Skywalker. I don't know what the names are. I kind of, as soon as like the original trilogy kind of went out the window, I kind of lost names of like the vehicles. But it's that one. So it's a new trilogy. It's the sand speeder for there as well.
Cool. Legos are great. I don't care how old you are.
Like I said, it's a story nobody cares about, but I figured I'd say it on air.
But I do love that you picked Scooby-Doo. I didn't even think of that. And what's funny is Mark Hamill is a voice actor in this one, so that even makes it even better. So that's cool. I think I've seen this. This came out in 1998. I'm sure I've seen it because I grew up with Scooby-Doo as well. My sister loved these type of shows and whatnot, and so I'm sure I watched this. But no, that was a good one. Good number 3.
Chase, number 2.
Number 2. So number 2. Okay, this is where I started having trouble picking number 2 and number 1. I had a really hard time because I am not a big fan of horror movies. It's just not a genre I go to. So a lot of my horror movies are either really old movies that I love or just a kid show. But I did pick a slasher for this one. And I can't pick a slasher for number 1 because I have a number 1 horror movie that I like. So that has to be number 1. So the slasher for me is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but the one from 2003. So it seemed like Michael Bay produced a bunch of horror movies. He did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He did the 2006, The Beginning, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He did Friday the 13th. He did Nightmare on Elm Street. He did all these horror movies for some reason. And I really like the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it is a slasher, but it's so gory, yet you don't see that much gore. And I think that's what's so brilliant about that series, even from the original one from 74 all the way to, the 2003 one that I really like, and then 2006, which is The Beginning, which is before 2003. And they had the same actors and whatnot, which I thought was pretty cool. But I really like that film because it is so, they don't show you everything, but they do. And they know that fine line to like showing you and not showing you, because our minds they do the work for us, which is what makes some movies just terrifying, because we automatically do the scene in our head. Like we form it in our head. We're like, all right, this is how it went down. But when you start having horror movies that show you everything, it kind of ruins it for me personally, because I'm like, well, okay, my mind doesn't do any work. I just kind of watch it and I'm like, okay. And it becomes more of a comical relief. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they did an amazing job capturing this film. One of my favorite scenes in it is when he's running through the bed sheets and Leatherface is chasing him and he cuts his leg. You don't see you briefly see his leg cut, but then you see the blood hit the bed sheet. And I thought that was really cool. So that is my number 2, and that would be my top slasher film that I would enjoy.
It was always amazing how they always use like shadows and splattering blood back then. Not saying that they don't now, because actually off topic, but watching Five Nights at Freddy's, there was a lot of interesting stuff played with shadows and blood splatters too. So, which I think, Chase, is a film that I think you would enjoy. But here we go. And our list couldn't be any more different, Chase. May I remind the audience, our list couldn't be any more different. So coming at number 2 on my list, and I rewatch this every Halloween, okay? Mickey's House of Villains. And I know what you're going to say. Have you seen it, first of all?
What is it? Mickey's
House of Villains. So remember Mickey, it's not Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I forget what it was. It was a House of Mouse at the time. It was a TV series. But this was a movie, okay? This is where Jafar, Aladdin's villain, came up with a scheme to kick all the good characters out of the House of Mouse for the night. And then what ensues beneath this storyline of the good trying to corral the whole studio back and the whole place and the diner is it's very Fantasia-like, because it also cuts the very similar to the VHS style, but children's level, is they tell different stories within there as well. So for the hour-long film that it probably was, I frankly enjoy it. I watch it every Halloween. It is just, to me, it is a classic, and I love it.
Oh. It is an hour and 8 minutes long.
There you go. It just qualified for the feature. And can I guess the year? Was it 2003?
One. Okay. Even older. 2001. I probably have seen this. Any early 2000s Disney movie, I'm sure I have seen. I actually recognize the cover now that I'm looking at it, but that is not what I would guess you'd say. I'd be losing money right now if I was betting on this. So
because very, very what seems to be anti-Disney over the years, Donnie. Yes. I did have a childhood. I did love Disney back in the day, because Disney back in the day was golden. That was my golden age of Hollywood, Chase.
That would
and that would be time for you to introduce your podcast, Chase. Where can people find you at the golden age of Hollywood, right? Or the golden age, golden review,
the golden age, the review of golden stuff. Yeah, the golden review. So it is a podcast that Donnie and I do, and we review old films from the golden age of Hollywood. And we actually just did a Halloween monster series where we reviewed Frankenstein from 1931, Invisible Man from 33, and the original Dracula from 31. So if you want to listen to that, go to Spotify at the Golden Review and take a listen. We do a lot of series. We usually try to focus on an actor or a set of films, and we do 3 of them in the series. So go check us out. We're going to actually start posting them on YouTube under the True Light Pictures production channel, which that is the company that kind of owns and runs the Golden Review, which that's just me. So go check that out. Donnie and I have a great talk about films. If you like hearing us talk, that's the place to go.
That is the place to go. Chase, before we review our number ones, do you have any honorable mentions that didn't make the list, but think that they deserve something?
I have 3 of them. I'm going to go from, I have 3 of them. So my third one is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I have to mention that one. That film is just hilarious. It's a great way to kind of introduce and make fun of the horror genre in a way where you think they're bad, but they're not. It's just these college kids are killing themselves on the property. And I just love that movie. I think it's hilarious. My parents love that movie, which shocks me that they love a horror movie. it's a comedy, so it's more comedy than horror, I would think, but it still has that unrealistic bloodiness, and you're like, oh my gosh, he just jumped right into the wood chipper. So that is one of my honor mentions. I do love Tucker and Dale. I I bring this, it's not a movie, it's a series. But I bring it up because, well, I didn't bring it up on my main list because I don't put it as a horror movie, but they are considered horror movies, and that's the Alien movies, all of them. Alien, Aliens, Alien Covenant, Prometheus, like they're all, I love those movies, but I don't think they're horror movies. So they didn't, if I believe they were horror movies, they would have been like number two. So, but I have to bring them up. I love the Alien movies. Ridley Scott his movies are just great. Alien Covenant, I know a lot of people didn't really like Alien Covenant or Prometheus, but I really loved both of them. I also like the Predator movies as well. So any of those movies, they're really good to me, and so I love those movies. I'm sure you've seen them, hopefully. Okay.
I have, not all of them. Honestly, I probably started backwards. Before I saw Alien, I actually saw Prometheus, which probably not a good start for me because Prometheus was probably lower on that spectrum of quality.
Yeah, but it's the prequel, you know. And then I have to bring up Halloween from 2018, not because of Michael Myers, but just how they filmed it. It was filmed really well. Really, really well. And I just enjoyed it. Now Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. I didn't see Halloween Ends, but Halloween Kills I didn't care for because it did the thing that horror movies do that just drives me nuts about horror movies, is that you usually have the killer die and you know they died. And then at the end, they come back and do the final kill and then the movie's over. Like Friday the 13th does that. Nightmare on Elm Street does that. And it drives me nuts. It's like, oh my Lord, I just think it's dumb. But Halloween, the first one, didn't do that. But then Halloween Kills, he came back and just started, stabbing the girl. And it's like, oh my gosh. So I kind of lost it from there. But 2018 Halloween was a great film. And those are my honorable mentions, Donnie.
Very good choice. Very good choice. I'm going to say this because I will be very proud of this. I put on over honorable mentions. The Conjuring series is better than the Insidious series. So I like the Conjuring series. Okay, so I have the Conjuring being on my honorable mentions along with everything that goes with it. I'm gonna throw a little bit back to Hocus Pocus because everybody likes to say that time of year. So Hocus Pocus is the go-to for a lot of Disney Plus viewers. So I'm going to say The Invisible Man, but you have not seen this Invisible Man, Chase. This is the Invisible Man of the now, not of the then, not the one that we reviewed on the Golden Review. I thought The Invisible Man was so well done. I enjoyed that film. I still remember being on the cruise ship. I was on a cruise ship when I saw Invisible Man. And the person next to me just yelled at the top of her lungs on one scene. And I just you can't get out of the head. I was just laughing. I was like, this is hysterical. So Invisible Man, well done. And let me think. I think I ran through all those. So those are the three. The ones that I have not. Oh, where was the one that I had? Hold on, give me a minute. Edit time. Oh, here it is. Okay, this note. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm all scattered all over the place. One thing that I will say is I was not a fan of Halloween Town. I watched it again down in Florida. And, it's kind of like and Beetlejuice didn't make my list either. So if I know these aren't honorable mentions, but I'm just going to say two that I really didn't care for growing up. Beetlejuice, and I know it's a classic among many people, and Halloween Town, I just never really got into. There was also a film called Don't Look Under the Bed, though, Chase. Did you watch that one? Any of those Disney Channel movies growing up?
That one sounds familiar. I never looked under the bed, by the way. There's too full of stuff, so no monster could fit under my bed as a kid. So
well, no monster wanted to be under that bed, apparently.
No.
Let's scare them.
They'd step on Legos and it'd hurt.
Would. So, Chase, with honorable mentions out of the way, let's end the conversation with our top/favorite Halloween horror thriller You already said your slasher couldn't be number one, so I know it's not a slasher, but let's first say it is for mine. What is your number one?
So this was very difficult, and I couldn't really choose a number. I had a hard time choosing number one. I knew it wasn't a slasher, it was a horror film, but I have two number ones. I have to because I love both of these movies. And it's kind of hard to pick one. But The Witch, Robert Eggers, I love that movie. It is so well done and is so creepy, and it's a slow burn and it gets you. And it's not really like scary to the point where it's a jump scare, which is what I like. It's just you know what's going to happen. You know she's going to be a witch. You know that all these circumstances are going to lead to this point, and it sucks to see it go to that point. But Eggers did a really good job, and it was his first legit feature film, and so he just did an incredible job. And I love The Witch, so The Witch has to be my number one horror movie. But I have to mention as another number one that I love The Thing from 1985. I believe it's 85. It's 85. 1985. And even the prequel, 2011. They're really good horror movies. And I will consider those horror movies because it is a very unrealistic death, and the creature and what it does to the human body is horrifying to see. But the practical effects and Kurt Russell and everything, it was just a really well put together film. And that's John Carpenter. You know, he did Halloween. So I really love those movies, and I could not choose which one I love more. Both of them I love for the same reasons. The filmed really well. For the time period, it was really well done, and the lighting was great. I like the directors. I like just all that. So I'm sorry I have two number ones, but I have to pick two because I couldn't choose one. But yeah, I would say those would be the ones I would watch every Halloween because I really do enjoy both of them.
He's breaking the rules, but I shall allow it as long as he allows me to break the rules, because one just came to the top of my head, and I gotta tell you, number one, B, I'll go with first. Okay, because I do slightly like my number 1A better. 1B, okay. I have to give a shout out because I seem to watch this every year. Zombieland. I know that people will say it's not a horror film, but it's zombies. It does have horror elements. People die. It is humorous. So I'm going to give that 1B. 1A, I will say this, on my long journey of never watching really horror growing up. Like I said, typically the ones that are on my list prior were like Disney animated classics that I watched and stuff like that. And even later down the list, like I said, Sleepy Hollow, I did watch that as a kid. VHSs was more like teenage years. But the film that really revived my love for horror, and remember the Conjuring series that I just stated a while ago, my honorable mentions, the Conjuring series I hadn't watched until just recent years. So like I had not had that kickstart for horror, but the thing that really got me back into the horror genre, It Chapter 1. I loved the It series. Again, I never read Stephen King. I know there's a lot of great Stephen King books out there. I know there's a lot of great Stephen King movies, but that was a movie in which the effects were brilliant. I liked, and typically like child actors, you know, you could say like, okay, they're hit or miss. I thought a brilliant job in both part 1 and part 2 of It with the child actors, the acting, the gruesome deaths and the surprise jumps and scares. I thought everything was beautifully done. And that's a film that I continue to watch over and over in the basement with the lights out on the projector, just waiting for that scene where Pennywise comes out of the projector himself, because I'm waiting for it. Now, do I have like a loaded gun in my popcorn? Absolutely, but I'm ready for it. So
you got to protect yourself.
You got to protect myself somehow. But Chase, that is my number 1A. So I don't think that you could go wrong. But hey, you know what? One thing here to wrap up the conversation, one thing I'm very happy about is we really didn't overlap. And for not prepping this list, being like, hey, we're going to throw this list together tonight, let's see how it is. We didn't have an overlap. So there was not one movie that made it on the honorable mention list or top 10, or excuse me, top 5. But there was not one list. There was not one movie that transferred over each list.
Yep. I'm also not 5 years old, so that kind of helps my end too. Mickey's House of Villains. That I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night thinking about that. Like, really? That's the one?
That is the one.
No.
But remember, it wasn't number one though. So give me a little bit of credit. But
Yes,
I mean,
true.
as somebody like you that should love the Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back because the villains win, this was as close to a villain victory as you could get compared to like Infinity War, even, you know. So you should enjoy it. But like I said, I'm not going to force you to go watch a 2001, two. I don't remember. You said the one. 2001. I'm not going to make you go rewatch 2001 animated film for an hour and 8 minutes. I'm not going to make you do that. Although you've made me watch other films on the Golden Review in which have been a lot longer that I have gave it a lot less rating. So you know what? Maybe you should tell Kat to just, you know, go watch it with you. So
we'll go watch it right now. So nope, this was a good list, man, and happy Halloween again. And yeah, you need to watch Nightmare Before Christmas. That's my final thing to say.
I shall try to put it on later this evening. Try. I will not say I will be successful, but I will try. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hopefully you like this list. And you know what? Drop a comment in the comment section below about maybe what's your favorite Halloween movie. Thank you, guys. This is Movie Mayhem. I'm Donnie Shields.
My name is Chase Morgan Hewlett.
Have a great evening.